Okay, that thing that they say about YouTubers and having south-facing windows to film, it's actually true because the lighting in here in my brother's room is actually much better than mine. All right, what am I doing for the rest of the day? Nothing. So what am I going to tell you? Everything. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Stephanie. I make videos on travel, food, lifestyle, vlogs, fashion, and just straight up chatting with you about my very eventful life. And if you're kind of new and you're just joining here, I have been all over the place for the last year or so, really two for counting mental struggles as well, other personal endeavors that I've dealt with. And I've been trying to get to France for like freaking forever. And I told you guys back in the beach house, if you've been following, that I would tell you my whole visa nightmare story from start to finish when I got there. And something very exciting and great, and has put me in a great mood, has been announced literally today, just this afternoon, from Macron. It's always so weird that France gives news on Sundays. I don't know why, but I'm not gonna tell you yet because we're gonna save it for the very end, because I'm gonna tell you every single thing that happened to me over the course of this past year, with the story of me trying to get my visa for France. I'm trying to literally smile through the pain by this point, but it seems that this is finally over, not in the way in the beach house when I said, oh, like we're like teetering towards the end, or even like a couple days ago when I shared the video with you guys where I said, oh, it's like I'm not in the hell of 2020, but I'm not post almost there yet. Like now it's like the last mile to the end of the marathon. But I want to tell you everything, including what happened in New York with my cousin's apartment. Like, I'm gonna give you the whole timeline. I'm telling you everything, start to finish. It's a good disclaimer if you want to move to France, to be aware of what could happen. Granted, I've been going through this during COVID, so the French are already bureaucratic and slow as it is. Then you put COVID and let's just say I'm so amazed and nearly relieved that this weight of uncertainty is slowly being lifted off. Before I start saying anything I'm about to say in this video, just want to put a disclaimer. One, everybody's experience getting a visa is different. Two, I don't mean any disrespect or harm to any of the people that I'm about to talk about. I'm going to use code names also. Do I think that they're watching this? Highly doubtful. But to understand the story, you have to keep track of some of the names, so I'm just gonna lay it all out there. But no disrespect to anybody. I'm so grateful for the opportunity that I'm finally freaking about to have in reach. Is so close. Here we go. Get a snack, get some water, get some tea, coffee, alcohol if you like that kind of stuff, and let's get started. Okay, so to start the timeline, it is, we're starting right at the beginning. Well, as many of you guys know, if you've been following this channel kind of for a while, I went to Europe for the first time when I was 18. Specifically when I landed in France the very first time. It sounds very tacky, but I knew the second that the plane landed that this was something extraterrestrial and celestial to me. And it sounds really tacky, but I fell in love with Europe at first sight. And the more and more times that I went back there, I was like, I want to move to Europe, I want to move to Europe. And the last time that I was there in May of 19, I kind of decided, even though I don't know the language, Paris has something on me and I'm going to move here. And I came back summer of 19 and I announced to everybody, I'm going to move here. I said it the first time I came back when I was 18, summer of 17, when I went the first time, and I was like, I'm going to move here. And people were like, yeah. Okay, Stephanie. But I knew right away. It's like how they say when you find the one. I kind of knew it with Europe too. So summer of 19, all throughout fall of 19, it's my last semester, my last year of college, senior year of college, right? I applied to 65 job applications. One of them finally went through and I got hired for this job in December of 2019. So everything seemed to appear that it was finally gonna wrap in a nice little neat bow tie. I was approaching my last semester of college. It was the winter break. I went to Japan, to show you guys the Tokyo vlogs. If you haven't seen those, all the Japan vlogs. I was going to Japan. I was having a really BS last semester of college, all these classes that I didn't care about. I got my wisdom teeth removed, like a bunch of medical things, like wrapping things up in the US, right? And then I was supposed to move June 5th, 2020 to France on my CDI job, which if you don't know, that means it's a permanent job contract in France, which is kind of my dream come true, and I'm glad that I'm almost there and I've waited it this long. But I had my the first visa appointment scheduled for March 20th, 2020. Obviously, with COVID, that did not happen because it's right when shit hit the fan. It was the week or two after everything happened. The WHO, as I call them the WHO, make fun of me if you want, announced that there was a pandemic. And I was like, yep, this is, yeah, okay, we're, At the beginning, like everyone else, I was kind of like, oh, it's just gonna be a few weeks and then everything's gonna be back to normal. Like everyone else, I didn't really anticipate what COVID would become, that we would just kind of learn to live with it, which is kind of the point that we're getting at too now, with borders and a lot of things resuming, concerts, eating indoors, like things are even though they're not normal, they're resuming its own new sense of normality. I didn't know what it was gonna become, and I was kind of delusional. Oh yeah, it'll just be like delayed by a few weeks. It's gonna all be good. Yeah, it's just gonna be fine. I kept getting messages from the embassy, the VFS global section. Oh, as you know, like all the visa things are still canceled. We'll email you right away as you have first priority because you were canceled, you know, right when everything happened. They would not email me. I spent, starting in May, it was all that I would think about because I was done with school, and I would hit the refresh page and like Google the news every single day. Still nothing. Finally, at the end of June, I get a new visa appointment. Not a rebooked one. They didn't email me. Just by chance, I'm online and I see, oh, there's a new open visa section. Go take it. Go get up an appointment. So June 23rd, I get another appointment. I lose the money on the first appointment. I'm like, you know what? Screw it. I will do anything for this appointment. And I book it and set to go, right? The appointment's for July 10th. And my 22nd birthday was on July 12th. And I thought, this is great. Sign from the universe. Everything's gonna fall into place. It's my birthday. It's the world's birthday present to me. I'm gonna get my visa. I'm gonna make it there before the new school year because my job in France is to go teach English at a preschool / child care center, right? And I thought, great, everything's falling into place. You so stupidly thought, Stephanie. So it's a few days before said appointment. I'm on my bedroom floor doing Pilates, and I get a bing on my laptop that I have an email, and it's from the consulate, and it says, hi, we noticed you have an appointment, but we're only going to give appointments if you're a student, a spouse of an EU citizen, or a resident of the EU. And I was like, well, fuck. I'm none of those. It said you can still come if you want, but we'll only process it if it's this. So I decided, okay, I have the appointment. Let's just go anyways. The paperwork will sit there. It's all done. It's fine. C'est bon. Let's just go do it. So my then best friend drives me down to the office to DC. I wait on the line. I go, and the first thing the woman tells me is, you know that we're not processing these right now, right? Are you sure you still want to do this? And I go, yeah, no, it's fine. I'm here. Let's just do it. They take my biometrics. You know, they have all the other things. She scans my passport again, even though I gave her a colored copy, or the original thing. I don't know. Beware, you need copies and originals of everything. The French literally have everything but my liver and my kidney. I have my medical forms on my computer now, just prepared to give it to them. They can take whatever they want from me by this point. I don't care. Anything to just get there. So they have every document on me, but the lady goes to me, where's your OFII form? And I go, I'm sorry, what is that? And she goes, it's a form that your employer needs to fill out on your behalf, and I can't process your visa without it. And I go, I don't know, I guess I could contact my boss about it. She goes, well, I'll take it for now, but she writes down like missing OFII form, right? Whatever, CIRFA 15872, whatever the number, she writes it down. And I walk out, so I submit it, but she says she can't process it till she has it, and it's gonna sit at the embassy anyways. So I walk out of said visa appointment really kind of disappointed and depressed. And I walk right out, it's on Vermont Avenue in DC, and I sit into that little park, wherever it is, and I email my boss on my phone, you know, B, we'll just call him B for boss, you know, B, I went to the appointment today and they said that I needed what I believe is called an OFII form. Do you have this? Because they said that I can't get my visa without it. And very laissez-faire friend, she goes, oh yeah, I'll submit it for both you and this other coworker that was stranded in Hong Kong, but she's American, also waiting for the job. She was hired that June. Yeah, I'll submit it for both you and said coworker, and it'll all be fine in a week. It'll all be good. And I'm like, oh great, it'll all be good in a week. Yeah, it'll all be good in a week. Here we are, how many weeks later? Like 36 weeks later? So I come back and that's all really not good. But I'm thinking, oh, okay, maybe it'll be fine. Like in a couple weeks, they'll start processing the long stay visas for workers too. I'll get the paperwork from the French side. It's all good. Keep in mind OFII paperwork because it's kind of pivotal to the rest of the whole story. It kind of lays out the groundwork for all of the other problems I've been having since July of last year. So I'm kind of depressed, but then Monday, July 27th, I get an email from VFS. Your visa application process FUWS 17 blah 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 has been processed. Please come down to the DC office to pick it up. And I'm so excited. I'm jumping up and down, calling my said ex-best friend and screaming on the phone. And she decides, oh yeah, I'm free. Okay, she comes over. We drive down to the DC office. I'm wearing a blue denim dress and my high-heeled Converse, and I'm just feeling good. I still remember that day. She opens the door and she looks at me and she goes, you look better. And I go, do I look better? She goes, yeah, you look better. The rest of the day didn't go very well though. Going to the visa center, take a ticket, I wait. I walk up and this man is handing me back a red folder with all of my paperwork and my passport in. And I go, what is this? And he goes, we don't know when we'll be processing these, so here's all of your stuff back. In the most ever blunt reaction, we don't know when we'll be processing these, so here you go. And I went and I actually kneeled down on the counter and I went like this. Are you telling me that when you do process them again, I'm gonna have to fill out the form a third time and gather all of the paperwork a third time and pay for the appointment a third time and go through all of this again a third time over? And he goes, yes. And I go, okay. So I leave that appointment very dissatisfied, to say the least. I called a friend in the car. I was with my ex-best friend, and I get home and I'm really distressed. I'm not doing well. And this was kind of the big blow over, the big, you can't travel right now. So at the end of July, I go back to my boss and I say, you know, they said that I can't get it. And he goes, you can't get any kind of young worker visa. And I go, no, they're only processing these specific ones. They won't give it to me, especially without this paperwork. And he goes, okay, I'm gonna try something for you and said coworker in Hong Kong. And so this is early August by this point, first week of August, August 11th. I'm gonna try this thing to appeal to the French government, is what he says, to try and appeal for you guys to come. It's a heavy tax thing on our end, but I'm willing to try it. In 8 weeks, it should all be good, but if not, then it's the coronavirus and there's nothing more that we can do. So he tries this, and in this little 8-week time frame, it's mid-September, and since July, I really wanted to take a trip to New York City because so many times in my life, not so many times, every single time since I was 16, and I've shared this in YouTube videos before if you look at any of my NYC diary videos. Every time I've gone to New York, it's always embodied a sense of hope that no other place can give me. I don't think, I mean, Europe of course, but here, every time I've been through something really disappointing, heartbreaking, bad, sad in my life, I've gone running to Manhattan, and it's always reminded me that everything in life is transient, everything is temporary, and I knew that nothing would change my way of thinking. There are some people who would say change their mindset, they change their thinking. I've told this to you guys before, and they just keep pushing through. And some people, it's environment. And for me, this has been all about environment. So I knew that the only thing that was gonna help me was to go to New York. So the minute that the quarantine was lifted from Maryland, I went to New York in September. And that's where you guys saw all of those videos in September where I took a little 4-day trip to Manhattan. And that was the first time in 4 months that I had felt somewhat like myself, you know, wandering around a city again, exploring, taking pictures, making YouTube videos, writing, all of these things that I just don't have inspiration to do in this suburban town in Maryland. That was really hindering me from feeling like a person, to say the least. So I come back from that trip feeling rejuvenated, and I start kind of thinking in the back of my mind, okay, if I'm gonna be stuck here for a substantial amount of time, like 6 months, etc., I think I'd like to try and go live in New York City for a little while. And here's part of the story where I told you guys this in the beach house video, maybe, where it was really frustrating for me because I had been trying for other jobs, you know, just anything, barista, waitress, other writer jobs I was qualified for, literally anything, remote, in New York City, in somewhere. I so far total, and I'm just like, I'm at the point, especially with the news today, I'm not doing it anymore because it's a waste of my time. I have submitted over, I think, 200 job applications for literally anything. Like, I'm talking Veggie Grill on 23rd and 5th in New York City to be a waitress. Like, I can't even get that. I don't even get a response. I don't even get a rejection letter, which just goes to show how bad the job market is. And at the beginning in July, August, my older cousins in their 30s and anyone who's older than me, just people in their 30s, 40s, my parents, they were really on me saying, you're not trying hard enough to get a job. You're just not trying hard enough. And then, especially like come the new year, they kind of gave up with that because they finally saw that this is not a you thing, it's the world kind of thing. But I was trying, and I just couldn't get something. But still, I thought in the back of my head, okay, if I'm gonna be here for a while, I'd like to go to New York. So end of September, I start putting one foot into this New York idea, and I start looking for apartments, and I actually met this group of girls, and I'm like, oh, maybe I'll like rent out this room in this rent in this apartment, right? One foot in this New York plan. But before I proceeded with all of the other stuff for New York, this is the end of September, I still had one foot in Paris, and I went, okay. I had spent all of August bothering the French embassy here in DC, the US embassy in Paris, and I went, okay, I have nothing to lose. Let me bother the embassy here one more time, just one more time and see if they'll give me any kind of reaction for something, because I just couldn't believe, and I still can't believe. I think it's honestly absurd because I'm not going as a tourist. I am young, I'm almost vaccinated. Of course then I wasn't, but I was young, I could do all the quarantine measures, and I have a permanent job contract. I'm trying to move there permanently. It's not like I'm going for tourism, even though my life is gonna feel like I'm a tourist every day, and I'm not gonna mind that. Anyways, I wrote them an email, and I'm gonna screenshot all of the emails here so you guys can see exactly what I'm talking about. I emailed them basically saying, I'm 22, I'm going for a permanent job contract. Is there anything that can be done? And to my astonishment, someone actually writes me back, because I had been writing and getting very automated like answers. And they write me back, please specify if you're going to teach English. And I'm like, yes, I'm going to teach English. They write back, can you please send us a copy of your job contract? Yes, here's my liver and my kidney. Take my job contract. That is fine by me. By this point, it's Friday, October 2nd at the end of some of these email exchanges, and I write back to my boss, you know, are there any updates to what we tried a few weeks ago? Because the 8-week timeline that he set for me was kind of almost up. And he goes to me, I really have no updates for what we tried, so it would be really good if you could come by this way. So then Tuesday, I think it's October 5th or 6th, they write me back, oh yeah, you can come and do your visa, but first we need your OFII paperwork. So then I go, okay, and it's Friday, October 9th. I wake up at 3 in the morning to talk to my boss early in Paris, and I was actually wearing this exact shirt. And I go to my boss, you know, B, we tried to submit this paperwork back in July. And the thing with the French paperwork is usually, I don't know, je ne sais pas, I don't know, under COVID, if you don't hear usually within 2 months from Directi, which then goes to OFII and then gets sent back to the embassy of your home country to get an invitation to go do the visa. I know it's very multifaceted, very complex. Stay with me here. If you don't hear within 2 months, you have to assume it's refusé implicité, which means it's kind of tacitly denied. Denied. And it had been over 2 months. It was 3 months and I had no paperwork. And I'll never forget when I went, you know, we submitted this already. Where is it? And he goes, yeah, I guess we'll just have to do it again. And I go, okay. You know, like, I was like, okay. We're doing it. Like, hey, I guess So he goes, you know, you may not have the job for another 2-3 months. Obviously, it's past 2-3 months. It's 6 months later, and I'm still not there. Here's the frustrating part. All of October, I'm prodding the assistant to submit this paperwork because, you know, they are French. I accept that it's not like here. Not everything's like that New Yorker part of me, instantaneous. You go, you want it, you can have it right away. It's more like you gotta prod. Like a lot. So I'm prodding her. We finally resubmit it October 26th. But October 22nd, my coworker in Hong Kong gets the call to go do her visa. She gets the visa October 24th, 2 days later, and she hops on a plane to France November 6th. Right before France enters their second national lockdown, leaving me the last of the employees stranded abroad when I was hired before all of them. And I'm not trying to sound like a pity party. It was a frustrating concept that I was like, I've been waiting so much longer and nothing I do is enough to get there. We get to October 26th and I tell myself, okay, if I'm not on a flight to France by the end of the year, I'm going to New York City. I don't know how, when, what, when, why, where, but I'm going. And I actually get very lucky. And my friend who had an apartment in Chinatown, which you guys saw, she was in San Francisco for 3 weeks and we came up with an arrangement where I just paid for the utilities and it was all great. And then I got even luckier. My cousin, who had an apartment in the West Village, and her roommate we're gonna call Derek. And cousin we're gonna call Haley. Okay, let's see if I even remember that. Haley and Derek were both leaving for the winter indefinitely. And she's like, you want my apartment? I'm like, yeah, I want your apartment in the West Village of New York City. So she hands me the keys. She fills out the forms at the apartment for me because it's like a nice building. It was off of Christopher Street, right near Hudson River Pier 45. That's why you guys saw so many clips of me there when I was in New York. I would go there every night. It was just a perfect situation. I was all set up with the doorman. Paperwork was filled out for me. And I was like, this is great. I'm just gonna chill. I figured 2-month deadline, right? Because I got the automatic message November 23rd. We will process this in the legal deadline of 2 months. And I was like, great. I'll be here till the end of January. I'll hop back on the train to DC. I'll get my paperwork. I'll get my visa, and I will finally be on that plane to France. Oh, little did I know that I would still be in this nightmare for a couple more months. But I'm chilling in New York City. All is good. And here's why I'm finally spilling the tea for you guys. Again, not trying to be mean. I'm gonna finally tell you what happened in New York City and why I had to leave. when I did. So my cousin Haley, we had this arrangement, and I discussed before that it was really, really imperative that I didn't room with anybody else, because even though I'm 22, I'm not like most 22-year-olds. I don't socialize, I don't drink, and I really haven't been seeing much of anybody during this pandemic. Even when I was in New York City, you know, people have said to me before, well, you know, they'd say to me in the summer, this is a good taste of what Paris will be like because you'll be alone. But when you're in a city, you're alone, but you're not really alone because you're surrounded by energy and you're surrounded by other people. And that's exactly what I love so much about urban living, is that I can be alone, but I also have the convenience of conversation with a random stranger if and when I want it. And I recognize Paris isn't that exact way, but you're always gonna, you know, in post-COVID times, there's always gonna be an American tourist, and people will probably walk up to me and be like, bonjour, parlez-vous anglais? And I'm gonna be like, yeah, I'm American, what's up? How can I help you? Where are you trying to go? That's always of availability when you live in an urban setting, in a city. And everything that I went to New York for was exactly what I got, and I think it's okay, like, that I had to leave earlier because it served its exact purpose. I left with the hope, I left with the taste of what I want out of my life, and the certainty that what I want is very simple. I just want my Parisian apartment. I just want to live in Europe, and I just want to enjoy it. To some people, that's not enough. I don't care about money. I don't care about marriage. I don't want children. I'm good. If I never make it as a YouTuber, this is good. Why is this red? Am I running out of battery? Not sure what just happened. So in New York, I had discussed with my cousin that it was very imperative that I didn't live with anybody else or cohabitate with anybody else. That's the same thing, Stephanie. You don't have to repeat it twice. This is what being a writer is like. You're always trying to find a fancier way to take words out of your mouth. I discussed with her before when I met her in Flatiron. We met and she gave me the keys, how like I'm not gonna have a roommate, right? And she's like, oh yeah, it's gonna be fine. Because if I got COVID, then I couldn't get back on the train to DC. They most certainly wouldn't let me go do the visa, and I most certainly couldn't get on the flight to France. And at this point, I was still expecting to be getting this paperwork and getting this call. I was living day by day. Am I hearing something? Am I hearing something? I obviously never heard anything, but that's the mindset I went to New York with, was be ready to up and leave whenever you want to. I essentially went up there to kill time, which looking back, I still, if I could redo it again, knowing that I'd still have to come back, I'd still do everything that I did as I did it, because I killed 4 months not being here, and I killed the hardest months, which were the winter months, which is what I was most concerned about. So all was going pretty well. In New York, I was chilling, waiting for this paperwork, when my cousin arbitrarily texts me as I'm walking out of the Whole Foods in Union Square. It's Sunday, January 11th. Derek has a family friend coming to stay in his room, and he asks that you leave the door unlocked. And I was like, whoa, what, when, where, who? Haley, I don't really feel comfortable leaving the door unlocked. So we got into a predicament where they were putting me into this very uncomfortable situation, because it was a building with doormen 24/7, and you couldn't just come into the apartment if you weren't physically there. The tenants weren't physically there. So Derek was the apartment owner and Haley was renting from Derek. So I was technically staying in an apartment not owned by my cousin. And the predicament here was Derek and Haley were putting me in an uncomfortable situation where I was the only person who could technically let this person into the apartment, because Derek wasn't there to put his friend on the list. It's not electronic. You have to handwrite it. You have to get special permission. There wasn't a spare key for her to take. Like, it was cheating. It was cheating. It was immaturity. And the audacity to ask me to leave the door unlocked in one of the bougiest, most expensive neighborhoods in New York City. I don't care if there's a doorman, because what happened later is I didn't leave the door unlocked. And I spoke to the doorman about this. Was this my fault? Sure. Did I ruin things for myself? Sure. But safety was paramount above everything else. So I spoke with the doorman about my concerns about leaving the door unlocked, and they agreed with me. No, we don't leave doors unlocked. We're not doing that. So what did I do? I left that door locked because I was not comfortable leaving the door locked with my laptop, with my camera if I left it for the day, with my personal belongings there for anybody to take. Because what this person ended up doing later, Haley sends me a screenshot of her texting with Derek. She would never call me. She's the epitome of a millennial, just texting, which I hate, which is the reason for the demise of my friendship with my other friend, the best friend I was telling you about, who drove me to the visa appointment. She sends me a screenshot of Derek telling Haley that the friend tried to come by today, but the door was locked. And she asked me, can you please try to leave the door unlocked? And then things kind of shit hit the fan. I went down to the doorman. Doorman called Derek, told him that's not how we do things, and I was asked to leave. Did I screw things up for myself? A little bit, but also this was just immature. They put me in an uncomfortable position for which I didn't want to be responsible for. I even offered to speak with Derek directly to put me in contact with this person. Like, I wasn't given a name, age, what they're doing there, are they working, what's their schedule like, all of these things. I was about to have a mature conversation. We could both get tested, set ground rules for the public areas in the apartment, wear a mask. Haley just went, no, he wouldn't like that. I'll just, speak with you. I'll just mediate mediate between the two of you. It was just all immature. So the thing is, the doorman actually tried to help me stay, all of them. They let me fidge the dates on the paperwork for February. They didn't want me to leave. They knew the situation I was in. They knew I was waiting for this visa. They knew that I was suffering a depression and didn't want to come back to Maryland. They wanted to help me, but trying to be a good person and trying, even though karma has not come back to me for quite some time, what did I do? I left. I left New York City, and I was terrified. I was floundering. But in those last few days of being in the terrible Airbnb, which you guys saw in that video where I was getting kicked out, you know, that last week, I tried to move mountains, heaven and earth, to try and stay in Manhattan because I really didn't want to leave, because it was the first time in a long time that I finally felt somewhat like myself. Was it my dream? No, you know, it was, I ran into this guy that I actually met in front of the public library in September, and we ran into each other in the West Village on 7th in Perry. Like, it was crazy that we ran into each other. I met his wife. They had walked all the way down from the Upper East Side, and when I told him I was living in my cousin's apartment in the West Village, he was like, "You're just living the dream." And I'm like, yeah, it's a dream, but it wasn't my dream. I would walk down Waverly Place and 4th Street and Bleecker, and I would think to myself, you know, Grove at night in the winter with the lights and everything. It's so charming. This is someone's dream, but it's not my dream. And it didn't make it any less amazing, but it still wasn't my dream. Anyways, I'm sorry for the tangent, but I was really scared, but I tried everything to try and stay. I was posting things in the Staying Put in NYC Facebook group, which is a great group if you're part New Yorker, which I consider myself, by the way. Highly recommend you join it. I was posting in that group. People were trying to help me find a babysitting job or anything just to stay. I was walking into every single Dunkin' Donuts, Starbucks, I almost said Harris Teeter, but that's Maryland, Trader Joe's, CVS, Walgreens, Dunkin' Donuts. I think I said that already. Nothing would hire me. Nothing. And like I said, I was still sitting applying here and there for things while I was in New York. Nothing. Not even rejection letters back. And I know a lot of people who live or have lived in New York City, in Manhattan. I reached out to every single humanly possible connection that I had, and I couldn't make it work. And I just tried to take it as a sign. I think I showed you guys in my last day when I was at my cousin's apartment how I just felt like it was a sign to not stay, and it wasn't the right thing to do. And I did feel when I left the city that it was the right thing to do for one way or another. So I left, but in those last few days in the Airbnb off of 34th and Broadway near Macy's in Herald Square, I had a dear friend who arranged for us to go to a beach house outside of Ocean City for me to kind of recoup, to wait for this paperwork and see if this paperwork would finally want to grace me with its goddessness. And we kind of decided, okay, we're gonna give it 2 weeks. If we don't hear anything about this paperwork in 2 weeks, you gotta try to go back to New York. We wait the 2 weeks, and I kind of get to February, and despite what everyone was telling me for a long time, you know, Stephanie, you can't tell your boss, you can't tell the assistant, you can't tell anybody about your personal problems and why this waiting for you has been so difficult, because what kind of happened to me is, like I told you guys, I got put at a stoplight. I just graduated. I am still claimed as a dependent. I can't get the unemployment because I was a student. I wasn't working before all of this. I can't get stimulus checks, and I can't get a job. And it was many months of people telling me, you're just not trying hard enough. But now people realize I actually really can't get a job, and the only opportunity for work is here. Being here is honestly detrimental to my mental health. It's a struggle, as I told you guys, every single day to keep myself in my lane. It was just this toxic, I mean, finally at the end of it, but looking back, finally reaching the end, it's this toxic, vicious cycle where I just couldn't get out. There was no way to get out. There's still no way to get out until I'm done with the vaccines and I finally go get this visa. But first we're waiting on that paperwork, and I kind of literally sat at myself at that kitchen table where I filmed many times in the beach house, and I said out loud, you know what? Fuck that with the, you can't tell them about your personal problems. I had been patient. I had been loyal to waiting for this job for 14 months, over a year. It is time to call the assistant and ask her to reach out to the people with the paperwork, because for months I was hearing, that's France, you can't do anything but sit and wait. One must sit and wait. But I literally went, F that. I have been patient enough. This is the second round of this paperwork. Where is it? Something is wrong. So the assistant tries to call, and this is where I started keeping you guys in the loop, I think, in the beach house. The assistant calls, and she writes me back Monday, February 22nd. I got no answer. I would suggest you try calling them. And I was like, okay, but the point of you trying to call them was that you speak fluent French. I don't. I'm American, and they're gonna hang up on me. I then reach out to my boss February 24th, and we have a great video chat that I really will never ever forget for the rest of my life. And he goes in this order, you know, I asked personally, can we send someone down to the office? Because we've tried calling calling, we've tried messaging, and I really don't think that submitting a third time, if I'm being frank with you, is going to do anything more. If it's been 2 times and we're still not getting anything. So he goes, yes, we'll try things in this order. 1, we'll send the assistant to go down there. 2, we're gonna set you up with the online teaching so you can make some sort of income while you're waiting. And 3, if all else fails, we'll try and get you to come on a student visa. I have a connection that works in the American University of Paris, and we'll try and do this. In the time of the beach house, France also suspends any kind of student visas unless you're going on a very specific program. I don't remember exactly what it's called, but that option kind of went out the window. As you guys know now, as I told you the other day, the online teaching isn't really fully set up. I'm just kind of dipping my toes in the water with it. I don't make enough to sustain myself from that. And the assistant had gone down there to one prefecture, and then she was resorted to go to some of the other prefectures. I never got an update from that. So end of March, I kind of come to that conclusion, okay, I'm gonna go back to Maryland for 6 weeks. I'm putting a timeline on it. In those 6 weeks, I'm gonna work at my Paris job online and do any kind of work here, because I know that there's work here, whether I like it or not. Any work here, and just pocket all of the money while I'm here. And by the time I get to the middle of May, one of 2 things is gonna happen. I'm gonna get, and also vaccine. Get that vaccine ASAP, priority. And I did. I got the first dose. I got the first dose of the vaccine 5 days within coming back to Maryland. March 26th, and my second vaccine appointment is this Friday. So I'm so glad, because that really helps me now that I just got the good news that I just got about France and travelers and visas and things happening. So I set that 6-week timeline. One of 2 things will happen. By the end of the 6 weeks, I'll either have all that money kind of pocketed away, I've acclimated to my job now, and I'll be ready to jump in once I finally get there, and France will announce that they're gonna open the visas and open the things again, and I get up and go. The other thing, which is if all things still fail, I'm still thinking about what to do, you know. Last night, the past few weeks I've been, what do? Do I stay? Do I go to Iceland? Do I go to Greece? Do I go to Greece? Do I stay? Do I go to Iceland? The other plan was, okay, if I get to middle of May, I'll still be fully vaccinated. I'll still have pocketed some money. Let me just get up and go and wait out the rest of this time in another European country that will have me. Because Iceland has opened the borders to vaccinated travelers. Greece has followed suit. Croatia, Malta have followed, even though I'd rather go somewhere that's actually really on my list, like Iceland or Greece. But today, as I so hoped, Macron just announced that they are finalizing the plans to allow vaccinated Americans to enter the country. Insert happy sound effects here, and clapping or whatever. So that's really good. While I was here, I spoke with a French visa lawyer. This is a couple of weeks ago, so I'm kind of backtracking a bit. This is present day, where I'm finally almost there. I will be fully vaccinated as of this Friday. So I will have the in for the new visa appointments before anybody, because I'm the first one who missed out on them, and I'm already vaccinated, so they're not waiting for me to get vaccinated. So my plan has helped me being so aggressive about getting an appointment. I'm so grateful that I stayed up in the middle of the night on a Tuesday, hitting refresh 10 times over on the Walgreens website to get an appointment, because it's paying off now. Early April, late March, early April, I spoke with a French visa lawyer in Paris, in the 8th arrondissement of Paris. Well, I gotta work on my French before I get there. I spoke with a visa lawyer in the 8th arrondissement. Okay, there we go. I said it once correctly, at least. Spoke with her, and she told me, oh, as of April 6th, there's gonna be a new, easier way to submit the foreign work permit. And I'm like, great. I didn't actually believe her, but then, Lord and behold, April 6th, I go onto the website where you validate your visa and residence permits and all the other stuff, and there it was, apply for work permit. I'm like, huh. She told me, just copy and paste, have your employer, oh, I'm running out of battery. Just copy and paste all of your stuff, and your employer it'll all be good, and you'll finally get approval. There were 9,000 applications sitting at Directi, and mine was one of them. So now I'm at the point where I'm just waiting and gonna email her again, the assistant, to finally resubmit the paperwork a 3rd time so I can finally go. So my battery's dying. That's where we're at now. What this all means is finally this summer, some point this summer, I will finally be going, and I have a very special video that I've already started making that I can't wait to show. It's finally almost over. Like and subscribe if you enjoy my story. The visa process, we're almost there, and I will see you guys soon. Bye.